right. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you that we can spend this time together this afternoon. May your Holy Spirit's presence be here with us as we look at this important topic. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Well, it's good to be here with you in my home community. Our family moved here a little over 4 years ago when I became involved with Child Impact, and it was our goal we would have our kids at Southern. And so I mentioned that we have 9 children, and we have 2 of those at Southern Adventist University right now as a junior and a senior, a junior elementary education major and a senior business major. Then we have a couple of high school students. One at CA is a junior, Daniel, our oldest adopted son. And then we have Gabby, who's at Beacon. She's a sophomore there. And then Ani is also at Beacon, and she's in 5th grade. So if we keep adopting, it just keeps going younger, right? I think that's the idea. You have to have energy to be able to keep up with your kids. So I want to just share a little background about Child Impact. We were established in 1966 in Australia, down under, and originally called Asian Aid. I've lived in Australia a couple different times, had amazing experiences there, but originally Asian Aid, then they started Asian Aid USA, and eventually that organization said, you know, we want to focus further than only Asia. We want to work in other countries as well, and so Child Impact really now is global in our focus and is separate now from Asian Aid. We do have a couple of shared projects still. But I want to share with you some of these particular details. Basically, there are organizations that look at nonprofits and say, can you trust this nonprofit? Is this an organization that you can feel confident donating to? And so we have the highest ratings from the organizations that do that. Charity Navigator gives us their highest score, and I would encourage you, if you're donating to other organizations, look them up. Be wise in your donating to make sure that you are actually having your resources go to where you intend. And then the highest rating for transparency as well. And then the hardest one to achieve there was the Better Business Bureau accredited charity. There were a lot of hoops to jump through to get that one. So we did that one as well. But you'll notice one of them is crossed out, and that's USAID. Child Impact does not receive, has never received, and will never receive money from the government. Why? It comes with attachments, with expectations, with limitations. And so we want to be able to be free to share the gospel without restriction. Because yes, it's one thing to be free from a humanitarian perspective. It's another thing to be free in Christ. And we want to bring a full message to these children who've been in bondage and do both. So we are both a humanitarian and an evangelistic organization. Now, what you will hear most about from Child Impact is our humanitarian work. Why is that? It's because we work in some countries where we do not publicize the evangelistic type of work that we do. And so we're very much both, and God has really been blessing. We've had a lot of growth over the last several years. We've pretty well doubled in terms of our annual revenue, which means we can double in our impact. And so that's what's been happening. As God is blessed with more donors, that means there's more projects that we can take on. I want to share one very quick miracle story that happened this week, and then we'll dive into the regular presentation. On Monday, I got a call from a lady by the name of Burl. Burl is the sister of Beverly Thompson. Beverly Thompson was like a mother to me growing up in Walla Walla, Washington. The town's so nice they named it twice. So she was like a mom to me, and very close to my sister and I. We had so many opportunities to really see the world through her eyes because she was a returning missionary. Well, Burl calls me, the sister calls me on Monday and said, I've been supporting an orphanage in Belize, and the owner of that orphanage, or the founder of the orphanage, is not well. She's returned back to the States. They're very concerned that they may need to close the orphanage down, or they want to find an organization that they can gift it to. And so they ended up selecting Child Impact, And it's probably, in terms of what it would cost for donors to build that and to buy that land, about $1 million worth of property and facilities. No debt on it, just a beautiful improved piece of property. And so our board voted on Thursday night to accept that gift, and that will now become part of the Ministry of Child Impact there in Belize for orphaned and abused children. And in fact, we found out that they had just received 4 children that had been trafficked from another country, and they were able to repatriate them to the country that they were trafficked from. And so this really aligns so well with Child Impact's ministry, and we just feel like God saw this happening. In fact, there was a couple getting ready to travel to Belize who were asking God, what is next for us? What's our next step in ministry? And they are Belize citizens, somebody that we know well, a couple that we know well, and they will now be directing this project. So we're all meeting there in the middle of November, and we just see just so many evidences of how God has opened those doors and led in this particular project. So that is now the closest project, other than what we're doing in America, to go visit. So you can get a direct flight there from Atlanta, and 1 hour from the airport, you're there. So, I mean, literally in 4 hours, you could be at our project from Atlanta. So, super excited about that. So, I just wanted to look at those particular issues here. We have a card this afternoon. It is a different color. So, we want to make sure that everybody has a card because we're going to be doing a drawing. If you filled this out at church and you're not checking anything different on the card, I am going to be talking about a couple of projects on here that I didn't touch on at church, so you may want to check those, and we'll make sure we only send you one response. We'll make sure that we compare cards so we're not duplicating communication with you. But if you already filled it out and there's nothing new you want to fill out, I assure you, you want to enter our drawing that we do at the end of the program this afternoon. We have some really nice items to share with you. So just your name, full name on the top is enough if you've already filled something else. If you want to fill something new out on here, please turn that in. I think there's a few individuals that didn't receive that, so I see someone raising their hand there. So we have that and the flyer that we want to provide everybody. Okay, I want to begin sharing a video from India. It's a video that kind of merges our own family story with that of Child Impact. And it gives a little different perspective in terms of why my wife and I have chosen to dedicate our lives to this ministry. She's doing it voluntarily. I'm doing it as my job. But this video gives a little bit of a snapshot of why this is such a significant issue to our family. Recent studies indicate that there are 30 million orphaned or abandoned children in India. India is a country that is considered to be third world because more than half of the population is below the poverty level. We saw this in visiting the villages. They're very remote, and the individuals living there are known as Dalits, which is the lowest in the caste system of India. Dalits literally means broken and scattered. And so there is a lot of need here in India in terms of reaching out to the orphans and helping to meet a need and fill the gap for these children who have such loss in their life. Our team here at the Sunrise Home look at government studies to determine where the most vulnerable communities are located. This is where they want to bring children from to attend here at the Sunrise Home. Those kids who wouldn't have a chance otherwise. They really would not have opportunity to rise above that without the education that they're receiving here at the Sunrise Home. When we arrived here at the Sunrise Home, I was excited to see Jayacinth again. He is the first child my wife and I sponsored through Child Impact. As I greeted him, as my wife and I were there together with him, one of his teenage friends made a comment to me, "He talks about you guys every day." Wow, that really struck me to realize how significant our relationship as a sponsor is to this amazing young man. I let him know that we have his picture in my office to remind us of him as well. So this is a very special boy. We look forward to going to his village to meet his mom again. He is orphaned. He's a single orphan. His father passed away.
His mom is a sustenance farmer. She doesn't make enough to give him the opportunities that he is getting here at Sunrise Home. He wants to be a computer engineer. He's a very bright boy, and I believe he'll be successful in that dream he has for his life. When my wife and I were dating, she told me she wanted to have 10 kids. I was taken back, but I didn't believe she was possibly serious about this. She didn't mean 10 biological children. She had a heart for adoption, and that desire grew inside of me. And so when we found out about 2 boys from Latvia that were looking for hosts to come and visit for Christmas or summers, we immediately signed up. And that is how Andres and his brother Daniel became part of our lives. One thing we learned very quickly is that Daniel was looking out for his younger brother Andres. In fact, he was the big brother protector. Nobody dared mess with Andres because Daniel had his back. Like many of the children here at Sunrise Home, Andres and Daniel came from a very difficult circumstance. They were abandoned, left alone at a very young age, trying to fend for themselves. And yet, we had the opportunity, because of God's calling on our lives, to make a difference for these boys, to bring them into our family, to become part of our home, to become Evan's children. And I have felt from the day that they arrived at our home that our home is better because of them. When our son Andres passed away on April 13 of 2023 after a long battle with leukemia, there are many individuals that wanted to have some kind of a memory of Andres that would carry on and wanted to financially make that possible. So we decided at that point to set up a fund at Child Impact in Andres' honor. As funds came in, we began to wonder where best we could honor Andres among all of the projects supported by Child Impact. As my wife and I considered all of the projects around the world that Child Impact is involved in, it became very clear to us that we wanted Andres to be honored at an orphanage because he grew up in an orphanage. And we know the difference that having a family can make in the life of a child. And so we are so honored that right here on this campus, there's a building that has been erected in Andres' honor. Andres, all he could dream about, all he wanted was to be part of a family. And we found that to be true here for the children at Sunrise Home. Because of the love of Raj and Lalitha Varma, these children now have a family as well. And they have lots of siblings. So we are so happy to see these children find a community, find a family like we were able to provide for Andres.
It's been a couple years since Andres has been with us. Right here at Erlanger was where he passed away. And as we were journeying with him, I think he ended up with 4 birthdays in the hospital between Latvia and here. Whenever the nurse would come in the room, any nurse would come in the room, he'd make half a heart. Didn't matter how many tubes were attached to him. And then the nurse knew they were to come over and finish the heart. And then he would grab her hand and kiss her hand. So when he passed away, the room was filled with people whose hearts had been touched by Andres. And he had a dream. His dream was to grow up and adopt. He wanted to have little sisters. Little did he know that he would have little sisters. And after he passed away, my wife and I said, if he had been well, we would have started adopting sooner. But let's go and get started now. And so it took a little over a year to bring our girls home through that adoption process. But he'll get to meet some sisters in heaven, which will be amazing. Somebody asked me, how did you guys manage? You know, you should never have to bury a child. And perhaps there's some of you that have had that experience. But what I shared is that he may have lost a battle, but he didn't lose the war. He'd given his heart to Jesus and loved Jesus with his whole heart. So we look forward to heaven maybe a little differently than we might have without losing Andres. But he lived in a way where he transformed lives. And I continue to share his story. And I want to encourage individuals to really think about adoption. I have here a couple of sites that you can look at. So ccaifamily.org. This is the organization we have adopted twice. 2 boys the first time and then 2 girls. And they're very professional, they're Christian. They have a process that you can easily follow. And finances should never be a restriction to adopting. There are grants available. All you have to do is be really good at filling out paperwork. I became a paperwork machine because I didn't want my girls to stay in a group home any longer. I want to get them home as soon as possible. So if I wasn't filling out paperwork, then it was my fault that they were staying longer. And so anyway, that's all you need to do. If you can fill out paperwork, you can get grants to adopt kids. And then if you want to host an orphan, this is a project really for Columbia at this point. You can do that as well through another organization. The director of that program lives right here in Chattanooga. So we've hosted through their program as well. And my wife and I are tentatively in the process of adopting 2 more. So we're going to blow right past the 10 to 11 if that happens. But we believe God is opening those doors for us, and shortly we'll have another 2 members to our family, and my age will drop down even more because the youngest is 7 in that sibling group. All right, any questions on adoption or hosting orphans before we move on to our next topics? Child Impact is not involved in adopting children, but we believe that it's something we should promote and encourage Adventist families to get involved with for sure. Any questions on that before we dive to the next topic? All right. We have with us this afternoon some of our team members, and I don't know where Tony just went, but Nicole, would you mind standing up? Nicole is a board member at Child Impact, and so we're very blessed to have Nicole on our board. Let's give her a hand. And her son Seth has worked as a summer intern for Child Impact, and he still takes preaching appointments for us. And then Tony's there in the back. Tony's full-time with Child Impact. He works with our church appointments and is an awesome preacher and just fun to spend time with. And then we have our newest team member, Rebecca Kolb. Rebecca is a student at Southern, and she will be taking local preaching appointments for Child Impact. So that'll be a huge blessing. So we just did an orientation this week, and she's off and running, so we're excited about that. So let's move to the next segment here on human trafficking. And we want to hit this hard, and we're going to approach it from a United States perspective to start with. So let's begin by asking a question. If you were to think in your mind about someone being picked up by a human trafficker, where would they be, and what vehicle would they be picked up in? All right, let's see what you come up with. A white van. Okay, did everybody agree with that? Not a black van, not a silver van. It has to be a white one. And are there a lot of windows or not very many? Okay, so it'd say it would be a white panel van, right? And where are they at? Where are they at when this happens? Where this individual gets abducted or picked up? Where? A parking lot, but what parking lot? I heard the name of a big store. Okay, I didn't say it, you did. So I actually put that in the book that we're going to be giving to each of you. I put that in there, and our team was afraid that we might get sued. So we didn't specifically name the store where this happened. So I think we all agree that's the stereotype, and here's a photo, but there's something wrong with this photo. Anybody want to guess what's wrong with the photo? What the reality is compared to what this photo is depicting? Yes? Okay. All right, this is AI generated, by the way. I didn't take this photo, but I'm trying to, kind of depict. Okay, he's got a bag in his hand. She's too old. Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay. All right, here's the biggest thing wrong with this picture. She would be approaching him, not her approaching her. Did you catch that? The picture should show her approaching him, not him approaching her. All right, we'll explain more about that in a moment. And I want to explain that by asking this question right here. Who is most vulnerable to trafficking in North America? Okay, I hear foster children. That is an amazing guess right out of the gate. Who else? Okay. What was yours? Single parents? Okay.
Kids who are already being abused in their homes.
Okay, abuse. Okay. Someone who they're feeling needy for some reason. Okay. All right. Who else? I mean, sure, if there's addictions, I think we could talk about the indigenous Native American population is certainly very, very vulnerable. So we could touch on a number of these, but I want to broaden our thinking just a little bit in terms of who's vulnerable to human trafficking. And I'm going to simplify it right here. I'll just simplify it, and that is, here it is on the screen. You ready for it? Social media users. Almost all trafficking in America, almost all, starts on social media. That is a little surprising, isn't it? It's sobering, because who's on social media? Everybody. And especially, what age group are on social media? Right. Teens, preteens. In fact, a 17-year-old girl spends around or close to 6 hours a day on social media. So you kind of almost have to ask the question, what else is she doing with her day? So here we adopted a 10-year-old girl and a 16-year-old girl. 16, 17-year-olds spend the most time on social media. But which of our two girls is more vulnerable to human trafficking that we just adopted? The 16, or now 17, or the 10-year-old that's now 11? Which one's more vulnerable? The younger one. The younger one. Why? Let's take a look at this next question. Online predators mainly target girls in which age group? I've already given you the answer. 11 to 13. But a 17-year-old is on social media even more than an 11 and 13-year-old. How is that possible? Well, this is who they know would be the most vulnerable. What age group do you think follows 11 to 13-year-olds in terms of targeting by perpetrators? They don't go up, they go down. After that, it's 10 to 10-year-olds. This is research based on 150 verified child porn pages and tracking that hashtag, that thumbprint, digital thumbprint of who these guys are looking for. And they determined that it is 11. So here's the quote right here in the source, so you can look it up yourself. Online predators primarily target is girls ages 11 to 13, followed by 7 to 10-year-olds. So here's the reality that we face as parents. We used to think that we could have some of these conversations when our kids became teenagers. That is not the reality of the world that we live in today. If we wait till our children become teenagers, we probably have waited too long to have some of these conversations. Not because of them, but because of those that have sinister motives and are perpetrating acts against children. And I'm going to share with you in a moment where you find those individuals and where they're at, and why that is such a danger to even the younger age groups that we're talking about here. So here's another quiz question. What percentage of minors are solicited by strangers online for sexually explicit content? Okay, we voted on this at church. Here is the answer. 36% of minors reported being asked to share sexual imagery of themselves by someone they met online. So this is a stranger. Now I want to put a context here, because something else called sexting. And that's where our own kids, or our kids, voluntarily share pictures of themselves with maybe somebody that they're dating. Boyfriend, girlfriend, and they send some pictures across a digital platform. Perhaps it's texting, perhaps it's another platform. What happens if that couple break up? What happens if the guy wants to show one of his friends and said, hey, look at this girl I'm dating? What happens if the friend says, hey, send me that photo, and he sends it? That friend doesn't have the same level of commitment that was made between him and the girl to not share this thing. And the next thing you know, this photo's out everywhere. What does that do to the young lady that thought she was innocently sharing in a safe way a photo of herself with somebody that she cared about? It can be destructive, right? And there are young ladies and young men who've taken their lives over something like this happening. So I share with young people, and Child Impact gets quite a few opportunities to speak with high school students, and we go into the classrooms and we talk with these kids. And we say, don't share a picture of yourself you wouldn't be proud for your parents to see. And I have, as an employer, gone online on social media to look at the profiles and photos and postings of individuals that we're considering hiring, and have made decisions not to hire certain individuals based on photos that they're posting, especially in the type of work we're doing. So in a digital world, things can take a life of their own, and they're hard to retrieve once they've gone out. I was approached by someone that I know well, who has several children, raising them in an amazing Adventist home. And one day her son came to her and said, Mom, I've made a mistake. I need your help. I need your advice. She said, what happened? He said, somebody sent me a nude photo, and I sent one back. But the person I sent it to is different than who I thought I was sending it to. And now they're demanding some money from me. Now we've gone from sexting to sextortion. And this is a reality in the world that we live in, with thousands and thousands of cases reported every year of this taking place. And for all those that are reported, how many go unreported when this kind of thing is involved? So I have a story in the booklet of a boy by the name of Ryan Lake. He was communicating with who he thought was a 21-year-old young lady who sent him an explicit photo. She asked Ryan to send a photo in return, which he did. He was then asked for $5,000, or his photo would go to anyone he knew. He was so embarrassed, he didn't know what to do. This is a straight-A student, member of the Future Farmers of America. Felt trapped. He sent $150, all he could get a hold of, wrote a goodbye note, and took his life. In researching this case, they discovered that he was being targeted, as were other American young men, by 4 guys from the Ivory Coast in Africa, targeting American kids, trying to extort money from them, pretending to be 19, 21, 20-year-old girls. And this boy fell victim to that. So it's something we need to be aware of. And we need to recognize that the practices of these individuals can be very deceitful, and they're intentionally trying to set a trap. Now I want to talk about the city in the United States that has more brothels than Starbucks. That is Houston. We identified that as number 1. Number 2 is Las Vegas. Number 3 is Washington, D.C., and number 4 is Atlanta. Number 5 is Miami. So right here in America, there are trafficking situations going on, and again, it's one of those out of sight, out of mind type of issues that we may never see it personally taking place because we may not frequent those locations where it is happening. But just in case you think that you are safely removed from human trafficking, from sex trafficking, I believe all of you probably saw in the news of the arrest in Collegedale a few weeks ago of a sex trafficking ring. Do you remember seeing that? If you did not see it, type it in. It's the reality that this is everywhere. It's in this case, It's in Collegedale as well, and it's something that's a very serious thing. But I read a statistic that was very alarming to me because from all the research that we've done and from what we're aware, there is one addictive habit that is most responsible for funding sex trafficking. Any idea what that is? You're right, it's pornography. So here's the stat, and it's alarming. 75%, what percent? 75% of Christian men and 40% of Christian women reported consuming porn on some level. When was this study done? Just last year by George Barna, a very reputable researcher. And then notice this comment underneath. You can help end sex trafficking by simply refusing to participate in the production, distribution, or consumption of pornography. So we're always asked, well, what can we do to make a difference here in America about human trafficking, sex trafficking in particular? The most obvious, the most significant is to say no to pornography. Now, the average age in which a child is first exposed to pornography keeps dropping. But I remember when I was in about the second grade, getting off at a bus stop for a birthday party. And as I approached my friends at the birthday party, they were all up in a tree house. And they were all huddled together looking at something, and they looked a little sheepish and a little uncomfortable. They invited me to come up the tree house, and I decided to keep my feet firmly planted on the ground. And I was glad I did because they were looking at dirty magazines. Already at that young age, there's a curiosity. And yet these things are not just an innocent desire that we act on in our lives in the privacy of our own bedroom. A site like Pornhub receives 5 billion visits a month. 12% of websites, at least 12%, are pornographic. This is a booming business. And when someone chooses to access pornography, they will see ads that will pop up. Why are those ads there? Because those advertisers are paying for them because they know that people are there. So if you choose in the quiet of your own bedroom to access pornography and these ads are popping up, guess what? Because you're there, those advertisers are there. So you are directly contributing to the issue of sex trafficking in America and globally. So I just want to challenge you. Let's not be included in these 75% of men and 40% of women. In this resource, we have ways that you can break free from porn. And I want to really encourage you to do that. I remember when I was pastoring at a church, I had a youth pastor I was working with. And he would come into the office late, and his clothes wrinkled, and his hair a mess. And I didn't know what was going on, but he didn't seem to be doing his job very much. And one day I got a call. I was out for lunch, and I got a call from my church secretary. And she said, Tom, someone has been on the church computer, and they crashed it. I brought our church member in that works on repairing the church computer, and it is filled with pornography on the church computer in the church office. She said, Pastor, who could have done this? I knew who could have done this because some things weren't adding up. So I invited him into my office. And I just explained what had happened. I said, was it you? He hung his head. He said, yes. Here's the challenge, friends. Ask for help. Take initiative and ask for help. Don't be found out. Be transparent. Be open. Tell your spouse what's going on. Get the help you need. See a professional counselor. Do whatever it takes because you are contributing to this issue of human trafficking globally. And so I just really want to appeal to that. I know it's a bit strong here. It's kind of odd that I'm having this conversation because that has not been part of my journey. But I see the damage that it does, and I have encountered it many times as a pastor. And I've encountered it with pastors. They struggle with this too. So now, I wrote this booklet from the perspective of a father, primarily. And so I approached my own kids, and I said, Am I missing something? When we're talking about sex trafficking in America, the online dating, is there something I should be including that I'm missing? And they would say, well, you need to include this. You need to include that. Think about this. We see this. We heard about this. This happened to us. And so one of the things that they told me I must include is a website called OnlyFans. OnlyFans is a pornographic site that has a specific allure, and it's really very popular with young adults, of a dating experience. They try to reproduce a dating experience. And so they call the pornographic, those that go on there and produce pornographic material, they call them creators or models. So they give them this nice name for what they're doing. And these creators or models try to build this intimate relationship with their client. So he feels like, I mean, it happens to women, but most go on there, most are women as creators. If you go to Walmart and you see 100 ladies, 1 or 2 of them are on OnlyFans. That's how rampant it is. So you have seen individuals that are involved in this kind of work. You just didn't know it. So a man goes on there and he's paying for this content this lady's producing, and she becomes kind of his friend. They chat back and forth, and they build this relationship, and he's thinking, this is amazing. She's kind of all mine. But I want to ask you a question. This lady's out there to make money. How many men can she have this kind of intimate, personal connection back and forth with? How many do you think? Could she keep up with 50 guys? How many think 50 is doable? Okay, this is every day, talking back and forth. Okay, how about 100? How about 5,000? At some point, we begin to realize that there is no way this lady is going to be able to keep that kind of personal relationship back and forth with these guys. So what does she do? Well, first of all, let's look back to that screen again. I want to share with you some of the stats. There's 1.1 million created in the United States alone. You can see how many visits to the site globally. So it's not as big as Pornhub, but it's very, very popular. And then look at this last line. This is the shocking one. 36% of OnlyFans accounts are classified as likely third-party controlled. What does that mean? Someone else is putting them up to this. Someone else is making a cut. She's being forced to do this. So that's, by definition, human trafficking. So about a third of the accounts on OnlyFans potentially are human trafficking situations. There's a recruiter that I've listened to, a recruiter for OnlyFans that goes out and finds young girls that have lots of followers on social media, maybe glamour shots. And she asks them, hey, do you want to make some money with this? And these girls will sign up. But she talks about trying to find girls who will lie about their what? Age. Because OnlyFans will tell you that they're only for adults as creators. But if you can find someone willing to lie about their age, that means that there's underage sex work going on. And by definition, anytime someone under the age of 18 is involved in sex work, it is unequivocally human trafficking. All right, so let's talk about this lady who has 5,000 followers. She's now going to hire somebody to communicate with her clients on her behalf because she can't keep up. What is the name of that individual? Is it an imposter, a chatter, a scammer, or a bilker? Which one do you think? All right. All of the above, right? And that man that's built this beautiful, intimate relationship in his fantasy of his mind is actually talking to a guy in the Philippines. One of our team members is half Filipino, and she said, do you have to call out the Philippines like that? And I'm saying, well, that's where they're at. That's the reality. And so these guys are in a room somewhere, and they're keeping all these conversations going on. I want you to look and see what they do here. Chatters don't just respond to messages. They actively do what? Drive sales. Trained in fan psychology and persuasive writing, they know when and how to make offers, time discounts, introduce new content drops, by maintaining daily conversation with fans, chatters keep them emotionally invested and more likely to do what? Spend. It's all about the money, right? All right, here's our next question. What online games are a hunting ground for child predators? How many say it's Roblox? Anybody for Minecraft? How about Fortnite? All the above. That's the correct answer, but there is one that is the main culprit, and that would be the game of Roblox. Why Roblox more than the others? Roblox is the most popular game in the world. No doubt, if you're like other audiences I've shared with, some of you have never even heard of it before. But this is the most popular game in the world. And after I wrote this resource, we discovered that Roblox was suing a vigilante. This vigilante is online, setting up the perpetrators so that he can catch them. And then he's reporting them. And Roblox sued them because they said, that's our job, not yours. They should have hired him instead of suing him, because they don't give a rip about it. They're there to make money, and they don't care that this is happening. In fact, there are certain places on that game that you can go and get involved in some very distasteful things that are directly related to trafficking. So what happens is predators, this is a hunting ground for predators. It's promoted as safe for children, but adults can contact minors through direct messages while pretending to be what? Children, peers. They then they request explicit images or attempt to meet in person. And just look at the stats here. 85 million daily active users. 40% are under the age of 13. So when we talk about targeting younger children for predators, this is where it starts. And I can tell you as a parent, you can be looking over the shoulder of your child and see them playing Roblox and say, oh, that looks fine. What's the issue? You can play with friends and with strangers. So I'm not talking about us needing to cocoon our children in a way where they have no access to the internet or social media. I am asking us to wake up and be aware, be wise. If you look at your child's Facebook account, if they have one, or your grandchild's, and think, oh, that looks fine, that's not where they're at. They're not on Facebook. They're on other sites. And TikTok being one of them. Instagram is way more popular with young people than Facebook. And there's many other sites that are visited as well, but even probably Instagram is getting a little bit old. So in any case, we just, as parents, have a hard time keeping up. The important thing is that we need to make sure that we know what our kids are doing and where they're at. When we adopted our daughter, Gabriella, she had 22,000 followers on TikTok. She's very good at lip-syncing Turkish songs. She speaks Bulgarian and Turkish, and she does the hair flip thing and all this. And anyway, she had all these followers, but she had no parent to say this is what's okay and this is not. And as we looked at it, to be honest, to be completely transparent, I felt she was making much better decisions than many of the Adventist girls that I've seen, the things that they're posting, where I have to close my eyes. But we still had a conversation with her, and we said, we want to make sure, Gabby, that the videos you're posting aren't attracting the wrong kind of people. And so she took a few of those videos down, and again, they're better than most of the Adventist girls that I see. I cannot tell you how difficult. I have a son that's an elementary education major. How difficult it is for him to find a girl to go on a date with. Once he looks on what they're posting, it's like, no, this is not possible. This one's a no-go. And it's like, how can my son even find someone that's making good choices on social media? This is the position I'm in as a parent. And then I've got to ask about my own kids. Are they putting things up that would be honoring to God and be making those kind of good decisions? So we have our hands full today, don't you think? I mean, it's a very different world. Even to get our kids to give up their devices for a little while, it's like, it's an addiction that's there. And I have to tell you, some of you as adults are addicted as well. Am I speaking truth? Yeah, I mean, you have grandmas that are addicted to the internet, including my mom. No, she's here. No, not really my mom. Anyway, we've got to be really careful, really mindful of how we're spending our time and what we allow into our lives. Okay, so here's kind of the conclusion of this section. At night, we lock our doors and arm our security system, thinking our children are safe at home. The internet bypasses our efforts to protect our children, leaving them vulnerable to predators. As a parent, we're up at night, we're just wanting our child to get home safe. You know, they're out late with friends. So, Lord, please bring them home safe. And they get home and they have unrestricted access to the internet, and they may be less safe at home than they were away from home. That's the kind of mindset we need to be having about this. Our 17-year-old daughter leaves her phone in our bedroom when she goes to bed at night. Is that crazy? I think that's the reality of the world we live in today. And we as parents have to make those tough decisions. We're not called to be our kids' best friends. We're called to be parents. And we need to launch them into the world as mature adults who are able to make those decisions for themselves when they're mature enough to do that. But it is a challenging world we live in today. Now, someone mentioned the foster care system. I want to share this quote with you. There are a tremendous number of kids, a multitude of kids are sold as sex slaves today in America. These are American kids, American-born. Read this last part with me. 50% to 60% coming out of the foster care industry. I've seen even higher numbers. But I want to share with you how bad this is. Every year there are 23,000 foster care children that age out. Why does this happen? Because all of us want to adopt babies. And when you have kids that have some issues, they're a bit older, maybe there's a sibling group, well, that's just a little too much of an inconvenience for me. And we want to have this warm, fuzzy feeling of raising a child from a baby and having all those first experiences with them. And that's beautiful, and that's nice, and that's great. But the greatest need are for sibling groups and older children. So my wife and I chose to go to where it's hardest, where the need is the greatest, and where there can be the most challenges. But notice what the future looks like for these kids. 3% finish college by the age of 26. That's compared to 36% of your regular population. 20% instantly become homeless. 25% are incarcerated within 2 years. 90% of children with 5 or more placements are incarcerated. And then look at this one right here. 60% of the girls end up in the sex industry. I mentioned one thing that we can do if we want to make a difference about sex trafficking in America, and that's to say no to pornography. The second thing we can do is to get involved in the foster care system in some way. I'm just being very practical. Both those take some determination, to some decisions on our part. But I would love to see a church really take a hold of this and say, you know, foster care system right where we live. So here's the link to the book. This is the digital copy. At the end of our program, we're going to give you a free copy of that in the print form. I want to move quickly to global human trafficking. We will have some time at the very end for questions and answers, but it's a little different dynamic there, and I want to talk about 2 very special projects that Child Impact is involved in. This photo is a screenshot capture from a video. Sometimes for our videos with Child Impact, we reenact certain stories that we hear about. And one story that we consistently heard was about girls going to truck stops to sell vegetables, and those truckers asking them for prostitution. So these girls are underage, so we wanted to reenact the girl at the truck stop selling vegetables. So that's what she has there on top of her head. But as we were filming this reenactment, she was approached by a truck driver in the real world soliciting her. So we just kept the cameras rolling. We're like, they told us this happened. We're seeing it happen right in front of our eyes. So that's what this shot is. So our first initiative I want to share with you about, and it's on the card. I want to encourage some of you to prayerfully consider this. We have several more girls we need to rescue before the end of the year. We have the space for them. We need the sponsors for them. This is our Rescue a Girl initiative. One of our team members, Melissa, along with her husband, who is a police officer in this community, visited our project in Zambia where we rescue girls. And I want to share this brief video sharing about their experience.
I have been in law enforcement for 12 years. And what I've learned over 12 years is that safety is key. I'm constantly thinking about not only my safety, but a perk of the job is the safety of others. And safety, especially of vulnerable communities, which include young girls and women. And unlike being in the US, safety here in Zambia is not really all that emphasized. It's upsetting, it's angering, it's heartbreaking.
Hi everyone, I'm going to share with you my story from bad to good. When I was staying with my aunt and uncle, my uncle used to sexually abuse me every night, and sometimes he used to come to my bedroom and slap me, force me to sleep with him. He used to threaten me if I tell anyone, he's going to kill my brothers and me, and no one is going to know.
I am a protector. That's my job. My job. I'm also a parent. And somebody has to stand in the gap to protect them. And that's sponsors, that's the staff here at Riverside, and just a little bit that I could do to contribute with some of my knowledge base and experience. I wanted to make sure to share that with them, and I hope that they understood that I'm passionate about them and that I care about them and their well-being.
My neighbor told me about this school, Riverside Secondary School. Yes, she told me about Child Impact, how they help people and they change lives of people.
And here at Riverside, this is a fantastic school, and they have very high expectations for the kids. It's known throughout the country as one of the top schools. For some of these kids, the most vulnerable, they can't pass the tests to get into Riverside. And so we were like, how do we get these kids into a safe place on campus? And Melissa said, what about a program where we could tutor the girls and also give them a life skill?
So the girls that are in the tailoring program, oftentimes it's because their academics weren't enough for them to qualify to attend secondary school. And so without that secondary training and without any kind of vocation, their options were very limited of what they can do with their lives. And so some of these girls, a lot of them, have grown up with very poor families, and so there's a lot of pressure on them to do something to earn money for their families. Some of them are selling tomatoes or potatoes or corn in the market. Others are selling themselves in the market. And so we knew that we had to do something to end that. Rescue at Riverside means we are going to bring you to a safe place. Forget about the chaos of your life before. We're going to bring you to safety here. You can always feel safe here. So we're sometimes rescuing girls who have already experienced trauma and abuse, and we're also rescuing girls from that trauma and abuse. If they meet the same vulnerability criteria, we can predict what their life would be like without this intervention. And let's try to grab those girls and say, would you like a chance to have an education? Would you like to have a chance at learning tailoring? Then come, we have a spot for you. And we heard from the kids several times. They said, I cannot believe you picked me. Like, they're so proud of themselves, and we're so proud of them too. They have overcome so much just to be here. When I was sitting in geometry class, I wasn't thinking about somebody might hurt me when I go home. That's what these girls have to face, is that this is really a lifeline for them. Being in this program, it's a lifeline for them. Attending Riverside is saving their life.
So interesting to see a police officer so impacted by what he was seeing and experiencing there. And I can tell you from visiting these projects firsthand, it sticks with you. It touches your heart. One of the things we try to do when we're filming is see if we can have a young person on camera. But even those that with very outgoing, gregarious personalities, as soon as you put a camera in front of them, all of a sudden their personality changes. Except for a girl by the name of Mary. And so I just wanted to share a little bit of her story. She's one of the first girls that we rescued. there at Riverside Farm, and she has a talent for being on camera, as you'll see.
Mary was orphaned at the age of 4. She's now 17 years old and still has no idea what actually happened to her parents. What she does know is that she's been given an opportunity to pursue her education. And she has a sponsor. I'm so excited that our family has been able to sponsor Mary. And she has such big dreams for her life. First of all, she wants to volunteer, take a gap year to do some work here for Child Impact together with Monda. But after that, she wants to pursue her education and become a civil engineer. She wants to go to university. None of these dreams would have been possible for a girl orphaned at 4 years old. So it is so rewarding as a sponsor to meet her, to talk with her, to hear her share about her dreams for the future, and know that all these things are now possible. When these girls are rescued, there is a context that indicates that likely these girls have been trafficked or they're at very high risk of being trafficked. But they actually don't share their story for several months until they've been in a safe place. And when they share their story, they write it out in a letter form. I've heard these stories firsthand from the girls. I've read these stories. I've seen the pain that these girls have been through, the trauma that they've experienced. But I've also seen the healing. I've seen the glow in their faces and in their eyes as their lives have begun to be restored, as their childhood has begun to be experienced again, as they've been able to pursue their dreams. I know that sponsorship changes lives because I've seen it here firsthand.
As a girl, if we don't have safety, there are those men out there who try to rape girls and all those things, which is bad. And here at Riverside, it's very safe. We eat a lot of food, safe food, clean water, clean everything. I'm even gaining weight. I mean, look at my cheeks. Well, for other girls like me, I want them to have more than what I have. I want them to have that safe space. I want them to pursue their dreams. As long as Child Impact is there, everything will be fine for them. I believe so. Just want to say thank you to my sponsor. I love you. Take care of yourself and your family. You really mean a lot in my life. You hold a place in my heart. I'm really thankful. Hi, my name is Mary. When I was just 4 years old, I lost both my parents and I became orphaned and became the 15th child in my uncle's home. Growing up, I often wondered how and what my future would look like. It was really hard to imagine anything beyond just surviving each day. But then something changed, something happened. Someone I had never met decided to sponsor me through Child Impact. That one decision gave me a second chance and hope. Because of my sponsor, I was able to go to school. I just turned 18 and I'll be going to the university. Sponsorship doesn't just help, but it also restores dignity and tells a child your life matters. Please consider being that person for somebody by going to childimpact.org and select sponsorship, or you can call on 423-910-0667, and thank you for bringing hope to a child like me.
All right, I think I need to step aside. Yeah, she does very well. And there was no, she didn't have a teleprompter for that or anything. So if you'd like to meet Mary in person, she's going to be here November 16 for our fundraising dinner. And she'll be sharing from the platform. This is the very first time ever that we've been able to bring one of the kids that have benefited from Child Impact's programs to the United States. And so we're super excited about that. So just check on the back of the card if you'd like to be at that fundraising dinner and hear from Mary and meet her in person. So that'll be very, very exciting. Our Rescue a Girl initiative is $200 a month, or one time $2,400, and that is for bringing girls like Mary into our dormitory there at Riverside in Zambia, and that covers their whole first year. So it gives them everything they need to move into the dorm, their food, their uniforms, their school supplies. It includes the rescue initiative there. And so I think if we got a deal like that here in America, we'd feel pretty excited to have all those things covered for that cost. So it totally changes their world. Tony, what are the latest numbers? We have how many girls? We need to rescue 135, and how many do we have at this point? We're at 72 right now, and this is by the end of the year, so these girls can move in and start the new school year. So their school year time is a little different than ours. And we've had individuals that have supported multiple girls, so you're not limited to one only. If you'd like to do more, we'd certainly welcome that. But please check that box if you're interested. I have one more box on here I want to spend a decent amount talking about, but that first one there is Rescue a Girl, and that's our Free a Family initiative. Here you can see this is focused in Pakistan, and you see there the brick kilns behind you, and you can just see these on the horizon there in Pakistan, 18,000 brick kilns. And so we have the Free a Family from Slavery initiative there on the card you can check. And I just want to share a little bit. This was my most recent trip. I've just come back. It impacted me so deeply that I dreamed about it last night, and I dreamed about it another night since I've been back. It just will not leave me, what I saw there and what I experienced there. So I want to just give you a little taste of that. How do individuals become slaves? It's through an intentional trap called peshgi. So this is bonded labor or bonded servitude, and it's, quote, an employment agreement where the worker starts with a debt to repay. That debt is usually due to an unavoidable medical emergency. Maybe his wife needs a C-section. He doesn't have the money for it, so the man will approach a brick kiln owner, knowing that brick kiln owners give loans, and he will sign his life away, not realizing that it will never be possible for him to pay the debt that he has signed up for. The interest rate will always stay ahead of what he's making payments on. And so he's trapped. He lives at the brick kiln. Whatever he has to eat is at the brick kiln. And this actually is generational debt. So the debt does not die with the individual. It is passed on to their children. And so here's a photo I took there this last week on the left there of this young girl. And the statistics are that there are at least 2 million children who are working in slave-like conditions. Now, what surprised me a little bit is these individuals say what has happened to them, they call it slavery. So those enslaved call it slavery, but the brick kiln owners also call it slavery. That was shocking to me. But I want to share with you a girl that caught my attention right away. And I tried to figure out how old she is. You can see in the video here that I'm trying to ask how old she is. But part of us wondered, you know, some of these photos, some of these stories that we heard, were these staged? Are these kids really working like this, enslaved all day long with their families? I think you can see by the skill this girl has at making bricks that they weren't staging anything for us. This girl is doing this every day. So here we go with that video. This girl is making bricks directly in the sun. What is your name? How old are you? How many years? 7, 8? Did you hear how old she is? So you see your brother coming up behind her. He's delivering some mud so she can keep making bricks. So every family has their own section in the brick kiln that they work. So I actually timed her making the bricks, and she was able to make one in 19 seconds when I was, putting a timer on it. But her hair color is not natural. Her hair is that color because of lack of proper nutrients in her diet. And so we recorded a scripture, and we've used AI to, in English, speak what they were saying in Farsi. But I want you to see this because this is the closest to biblical slavery in the chapter of Exodus of anywhere in the world today.
The Lord said, I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt.
I am worried about their suffering. I have come to deliver them from the hands of the Egyptians. Now the plea of the Israelites has reached me.
I see how the Egyptians are oppressing them.
We used to work here. Our parents used to work here too, and we also work here. All the time, we are stuck in the village below.
May the Almighty God bless you even more abundantly and graciously in your life and in all your endeavors, just like how Prophet Moses came among us. You have come as Moses, the one who will also set us free from prison. I am very grateful to you, and I will always remain obedient to you and remember you at all times. That our God gave them the courage and strength to come here. Amen, amen.
There are several things very disturbing about that video. How old is that man? He's 71, going on 100. We didn't see very many old people in the brick kilns because they just don't live very long with this kind of labor. And then I heard him say something that was very troubling. We will always be obedient to you. He doesn't even understand the language of freedom. He doesn't understand the language of freedom. He doesn't understand that we don't want him to obey us. We want to set him free. But this man is in a tremendous dilemma because he has 8 children. All of his children are also enslaved in the brick kiln along with their families. What are the hopes this man can have a few years living as a free man? What are the hopes, or how enjoyable would that be for him if his family is still enslaved? If any of his children are still enslaved? So I was messaging with our partner today, and I'm just going to bring this need to you. I don't know if somebody here or several of you have the resources to do this, but to pay the debt for him and his 8 children and their families, and to give them 6 months where they can have their accommodation provided, their food, we can help them find new jobs, we can set them free for good. It's going to be about $50,000. Now you divide that by 9 family units, it's not that much per family unit, but this will give them a completely new life. And so I want to share with you what we do here with our some of the risk factors that are, I'm going to show you pictures that illustrate almost all these. Toxic air, my lungs, my sinuses were messed up being there in Pakistan. There's pollution, and then you add to that all of what the brick kilns add to that. And it's dust all day long, it's smoke. And so you have carbon monoxide, you have sulfur. I saw a man recovering from dengue fever. We heard of someone else having tuberculosis. We witnessed people, including a young child, with polio, very preventable diseases, but them not having access to these things. There's organ harvesting that takes place where somebody will lose a kidney as a way to pay their debt. There's child marriage, there's sickness due to water contamination, hunger and lack of nutrition, and illiteracy. So I wanted to share with you, this is a photo of the creek running through one of these brick kilns. This is a young boy I met when I talk about nutrition. He had in this little cubby 2 doves, 2 pigeons. And why does he have pigeons? Because they eat their eggs. Well, how far are pigeon eggs going to go to help a family that just have a small piece of bread and tea? And that's their typical diet. You might occasionally get potatoes and onions. This boy right here, he has polio and hobbled over to give me a hug when I came close. We have identified this as a family that we want to rescue. The mother's knee is so messed up that she can't kneel down and do all the work that's required in the brick kilns. And then this mother with her baby. For these families to survive, they need to make 1,000 bricks a day. So you can see, even though the baby has needs, the mom just keeps on working. It's in the hot sun. It is absolutely heartbreaking. So here's a short video that we just produced about a man by the name of Imran.
In the brick kilns, I met a man by the name of Imran, a hard worker. His father had been born as a slave in the brick kilns. Imran, as a young boy, longed for freedom, and one day he ran away. He escaped and built a life for himself. He became a truck driver and was doing well, but then word came that his father had passed away. So he went back to the brick kiln for his funeral. It was really a trap because the brick kiln owner recognized that the deceased slave had a son. So he forced Imran to take on his deceased father's debt. This debt does not die with an individual. It passes on to their children. And so there are so many of these families that are in generational debt. In fact, I talked with one family, they don't even know how many generations have been slaves. For 10 years, Imran has been working in the brick kilns, hoping again for freedom, but without any chance of that possibly happening. He has a beautiful little daughter now. She's 4 years old, and he has a 1-year-old son. But one day as his daughter was playing, she fell into a pot of boiling water. She has severe burns on her arm that still hurt today. And yet, despite these challenging circumstances, she's one of the most cheerful girls that we've ever met. Imran longs for freedom. The story of Imran is just one of many that we've encountered. Each one is heartbreaking in its own way, whether it be physical challenges or generational debt, seeing somebody elderly that can barely creep along the ground making bricks, or seeing a little girl at age 4 already learning how to make bricks. This is their life sentence. This is a reality that many of these families can face in Pakistan because there's absolutely no way that they can get out from underneath this debt unless someone from the outside is able to pay that for them. Because of the Free a Family project through Child Impact, Imran has an opportunity to once again be free. Today, there are more slaves than at any time in Earth's history. The question I have to reflect on is, what am I doing to make a difference in modern day slavery? What are you doing to make a difference? Here in Pakistan, we have witnessed slavery firsthand, but there's a difference. We've been given full access to go into these brick kilns and free these families from slavery. As long as the debt is paid, these individuals, these families, these children, they can go free. So the question is, what am I doing about this opportunity in front of us today to make a difference for those who are in bondage?
I am here with Farzan Masih and his beautiful family with 5 children, ages 15 to 5, and his lovely wife. His family for generations have worked in the brick kilns. He doesn't even know how many generations that's been. We're excited today, Farzan, because your debt has been paid. This paper represents that debt, and we want to rip it up. Congratulations. That is awesome. I had a chance chance to preach to the 23 families that Child Impact has freed on Sabbath morning 2 Sabbaths ago. The first question I asked them is, how many bricks did you make today? None! They were so excited. Preaching to individuals who've been recently slaves and they're now free. There's nothing else like that. It's touched my heart in such a deep way. So I want to encourage you to consider freeing a family. One of the men that you saw, I'm going to share a video of him now that he's free, but we actually help them get back on their feet, and we provide housing for them. We've been able to find housing all in a relatively close proximity, and they're able to stay there after that 6-month support is finished. They keep working, and they have the same home to stay in. And we met one of the first families that we rescued, and they've already, for 8 months, been living without the support of Child Impact because they have a new job without the debt, and now they have a supportive community. If any of them stumble a little bit, the community surrounds them and is ready to help. A number of them have been baptized. The majority of individuals that are enslaved in these brick kilns are Christians. And these brick kiln owners, you bring them a big stack of cash in their currency. And so there's footage there of me presenting that cash to the brick kiln owner, him signing the document, and he said, "Thank you for rescuing this family from slavery." Why would the brick kiln owner say that? Why would he thank us for freeing them from slavery? Doesn't make sense. When I heard it, I'm like, what is he thanking us for? Well, he just got a big pile of cash. And there's going to be another family coming along that has a debt that he can enslave in the same way. And I think it can give us a perspective of, well, there's so many, why should we even do anything? And I think sometimes we're immobilized because of the need being so great. But it changes the world for those that we can rescue, one person at a time. So here's this family, one of the families. This is a family freed on Wednesday, and this is their very first time in church today. They really enjoyed it. So we freed them on Wednesday. This is a church on Sabbath. I mean, there's nothing to smile about in the brick kilns, but now they're smiling. And I even like this pump right there. Look how happy the guy is that's been freed. I mean, you couldn't get a smile out of them in the brick kilns, and here they are just absolutely overflowing with joy. So if you get involved in this way, we will give you a profile of the family that you've rescued, that you've saved, and you'll get a 3-month and a 6-month update. So there we are. That is the Free a Family initiative, and if somebody has a burden for that one older man and his whole extended family, to give him a light heart and joy in his final years to see his children freed from slavery once and for all, please let me know, because that one's a little pricey to free them all, but I can't imagine him enjoying freedom if any of his family members are still working in the brick kilns. So I'm bringing that need to you first. I have not shared that with anyone else, including our own team. I just found out about that this morning. My wife saw that video of the older man, and she said, "Well, did you free him? What are you going to say to people?" I said, "Well, he's on the list." "Well, that's not okay. What are you guys going to do?" And so I went ahead and got a hold of our partner and said, "What's it going to take to free this guy?" And that's what it'll take to really do it the right way. Okay, so there's a few more items on the card as we wrap up here that we want you to consider before we talk about our secret project. We have donor trips that we take, experiential donor trips. We have a number of those. I have some of the dates up here on the screen, but we have others that we're adding. If you'd like to see one of these projects firsthand, I will be going to Pakistan the first week of December next year, and I can take a few people with me on that particular trip. If you want to see some slaves freed and worship with people that have such joy, it's absolutely amazing experience. I would like to explore a partnership with Child Impact through my business. We have a number of business partnerships, and that's been a real blessing. And the final one here, I would like to include Child Impact in my estate planning. So we'll be in touch with you regardless of what you check here. But again, the biggest need is that first one for those monthly donors to help us in that way. So right now there's some of the dates for the trips, but there are other dates. We haven't put Belize on there yet, with that being a new project for us. Sometime mid-year, we'll probably have a trip there. I haven't put Pakistan on there yet, but I'm planning that for the first week of December. So we want to have a drawing. So right now I say go ahead and finish filling out your card. And at this point, we're going to stop the live stream and talk about